study, to Debbie January, John Culver, Yehuda Hai Ben Matai Leah. Do we know anything about him? How's he doing?
He's doing
His heart?
better.
Okay. Sam Peak. Rusty Gerhardt, he's doing better. Greg Davis, who lost his father. And to the Harris family, Holly, Heath, Judd, and Jared, who lost their father. And to the Upmore family, R.C., Hunter, and Trevor, and all the other families that are affected by the West tragedy, and Russell Kirk, and anybody else who is in need and would like to pray for Israel with all things going on over there.
Yes. Well.
The whole world's coming against them, but we know God's got the whole world in His hands. So, with that, blessed are you, Hashem, our God, King of the universe and giver of the Torah, and may all the Torah we learn today we remember. Amen. Now, the prayer of the Ari. Ruler of the universe and master of all masters, Father of mercy and forgiveness, we thank you, our God and the God of our fathers, by bowing down and kneeling, that you brought us closer to your Torah and your holy word. Excuse me. And you enable us to take part in the secrets of your holy Torah. How worthy are we that you grant us with such a big favor. That is the reason we plead before you, that you will forgive and acquit all of our sins, and that they should not bring separation between you and us. May it be your will before you, our God and the God of our fathers, that you will awaken and prepare our hearts to love and revere you, and may you listen to our utterances and open our closed hearts to the hidden studies of your Torah. And may our study be pleasant before your place of honor as aroma of sweet incense, and may you emanate to us light from the source of all of our soul to all of our being. And may the sparks of your holy servants, through which you revealed your wisdom to the world, shine. May their merit and the merit of their fathers and the merit of their Torah and holiness support us, so we shall not stumble through our study. And by their merit enlighten our eyes and our learnings, as is stated by King David, the sweet singer of Israel. Open my eyes so that I will see the wonders from your Torah, because from his mouth God gives wisdom and understanding. May the utterance of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, God, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. Now, when I first saw Emor, I thought of that song in Latin, "It's amore," you know, but that's exactly what it is. Come to find out, because of the way God speaks. If you remember from the other Parsha, it would say, "And God spoke, saying," you know, and God spoke, speak to the children of Israel. Anywhere you hear that type of language, it's Guvarot. It's judgment, it's strict, it's, hey, you know. But this one, it changes up. God said to Moses, say to the Kohanim. That is a very hesed. It's a very soft. It's out of love. It's Emor. Hey. All right? And so we see that there's a tone shift here in this Parsha with the way God is communicating. Now, as y'all know, the way we have kind of been flowing, of course, a lot of this is not in order. Y'all know that. But there are things we're going to cover today, and I'm going to read a warning out of the Zohar. And so the reason that's why I kind of want everybody to be here, because you have to hear this, and for the sake of this tape, most of the information we teach cannot leave the inner circle. This particular Parsha that we teach on is forbidden to leave the inner circle. So
this one,
and so unless somebody is initiated into what we do and into the Torah, and they are a Torah student, they are forbidden to hear this one. It will bring death. It's that big. So, now, that's why you don't hear about it. That's why it's not spoken about. But because we are initiated and we are in the inner circle, we can discuss it, and we are going to discuss it infinitum today. If you read in the Talmud on this subject and on these other subject matters, it will stay, and that's all we will discuss in this matter. They stop it. All right? But for those who know what's going on, and we know, so we're going to get to know it. Now, what we see going on here in this Parsha is it starts out speaking to the Kohanim, sons of Aaron. He didn't say the Levites. You know, he's making distinctions here. All right? And so don't contaminate yourself. Don't do this. And of course, the virgin sister, we all know what's going on with in those certain realms. But there's a theme going on with the bald spot on their heads. Of course, we're talking Yesod always. Anytime you start going like that, all right? And they start getting into the feast, if you notice.
Which was fixed. It starts to cook, doesn't it?
Yeah, they start getting into the laws of the Kohanim, the sanctifying themselves, the blemishes on the animals, and the desecration of God's name. All right? And the festivals, Pesach, the Omer, counting the Omer to Shavuot, Rosh Hashanah, Sukkoth, and so he goes through and outlines everything that's sanctifying everything, that's removing contamination. But we all know that it's all about creating union, because he's trying to create union. And what is he trying to create? Holy union. You know, because he's trying to separate the filth. And what we're going to learn today, it is the excrement. Okay? If we are made in the image of God, we have waste material. He has waste material. And talking with Brad a little bit earlier today, what has happened is, let's say you're having waste and you drop something very precious in there. Well, are you going to let it go, or are you going to get it out? You dropped your diamond ring, your wedding ring in there. Are you going to get it out? You know, you're going to call a plumber, and you're going to have to take the sink apart. Well, it's already gone through the septic tank. Well, you got to go through the trash. This is what's going on.
That reminds me of the guy on that job site when he dropped his cell phone down in the porta john.
Mm-hmm.
And he come over to me and wanted to ask, I think of some way to get it out. And I go, dude, do you really want it?
Yeah. and God's answer is yes. I've got to have it. I can't do without it. Okay, so that's kind of what's going on theme-wise here. And as we get into it, we're going to see. There's a theme here about you shall not marry a woman who's a harlot, and it starts talking about a woman who's been divorced by her husband. He's laying everything out because of the episode that goes on in this chapter. All right. Now we go to this chapter. And I know everybody read their Parsha. I'm sure everyone read their Parsha.
Do you have an extra book? I left mine.
Yeah.
And it's going through the whole wave offering and all this stuff. And because we're right in the counting the Omer, I'm going to go a little bit to the Zohar, because I know that we have not done that correctly. And so I'm going to tell us what we got to do and why we got to do it and what the importance of it is. Okay? Of course, everything's a 7-day period here and a 7-day period there, and and remember all of the separating the women from the men, and when they were at their time, it was a separation of this many days, and when they're in their purity, it was separation of this many days. Well, this has translated not only from the physical woman, but who is the woman? Israel. And who is the keeper? And who is the head woman? The Kohen Gadol, so to speak. You see, that is the Malchut, that is the Nukva. So it not only is applying to a woman's natural functions, it's now applying to the body of Israel, the woman, and on and on and on. And so that's why you're seeing all these waves and all these things, because she's trying to get ready for her husband, who is Zerampin. And she is consecrating herself, she is cleaning herself up, she is purifying herself, which we call receiving the Torah, which is receiving Zerampin, but she is receiving Zerampin. It is the union. That's what Sukkot is. Okay? So what each one of these days are, each time we read the Omer for that day, we are purifying a piece of not obviously ourselves, but the whole spherotic upper levels, lower levels, everything, so that there can be union and receive the Torah. If we don't, the union is impure, therefore we are. Because how can we receive something pure and holy like the Torah if we are impure as a vessel and haven't prepared ourselves to receive it? So that's what the counting of the Omer is. All right. And now, if you'll turn to chapter 24, this part of the parsha talks about the menorah, and then it goes into the showbread. All right, and you shall take fine flour and bake it to 12 loaves, and all these different things. And it tells them how to stack it. You got 2 stacks of 6. We know what 6 is. We know we had 2 stacks. The Hasidim and Guver wrote, it's all about Hug, but we know the 12 is talking about a Rikon Pin, and the Koel of that, in other words, the collective of that, is the beard. And this is the dew that runs down the beard. Okay? And of course, that is the upper Yesod, so the dew to the lower Yesod, that's what the union comes from. That's what a blessing is. That's what Shabbat is. All right? And as he's flowing through these things and talking about every Sabbath, and they shall eat of it. All right? That's that whole eating, knowing, it's the whole thing, Eating from the tree, knowing of the tree. That's this whole concept. This whole concept is iterating out in this Parsha. And next week's Parsha, it's the sabbatical year. And so we're seeing the entire iteration from Egypt and him fixing everything and separating everything out. Now bringing it all together. The problem is there's waste. Now, so what we do, we have to find it. Now, if you will look at, and I will read it for those of you that didn't bring a Chumash. 24, verse 10. It says, the son of an Israelite woman went out. Dash. We know where there's a dash, there's a lot to fill in the blank, right? Mm-hmm. And he was the son of an Egyptian man. Dash. Among the children of Israel, they fought in the camp. Who were they? They fought in the camp. The son of the Israelite woman and an Israelite man. Now we just shifted from an Egyptian man to an Israelite man. The son of the Israelite woman pronounced the name and blasphemed. Space. So they brought him to Moshe. The name of his mother was Shilemite, or Shilemis, daughter of Devari, from the tribe of Dan. Now, all of a sudden, it now mentions the mother, but it called her an Israelite woman in the beginning. but now it's mentioning the mother. So we see how it's kind of, they placed him under guard to clarify for themselves through Hashem. Hashem spoke to Moses saying, remove the blasphemer to outside the camp, and all those who heard lean their hands on his head. The entire assembly shall stone him. To the children of Israel you shall speak, saying, any man who will blaspheme his God shall bear his sin. And one who pronounces blasphemy the name of Hashem shall be put to death. The entire assembly shall stone him, proselyte and native alike. When he blasphemes the name, he shall be put to death. Verse 17. This is very important. It says, and a man, dash, if he strikes mortally another human life, he shall be put to death. And we'll stop right there. So, I'm going to go through this and we're going to dice it up and clarify everything that is going on.
Fill in the dashes.
We got to fill in the dashes. All right. Now, first of all, let's look at the went out. The son, well, first of all, let's clarify who this child is. Okay? Now, there was a story way back in Egypt that made and caused Moses to leave Egypt. When he used the name to kill an Egyptian man. And then it has a blank. Alright? Why did he kill the Egyptian man? Anybody remember?
Raped a woman.
He raped a woman. There's versions there. Yeah, he was. Yeah, but because he was attacking her husband, who caught them in the act. The man divorced his wife, and in the midst of it, she got pregnant. Now, who is the Egyptian? He was the soul root nephesh of the Egyptian. On the board, remember? Cain. Remember, then we had Korach, and then we had, who is the neshama? Jethro. Okay? And so, remember, Cain killed Abel. Moses is Abel. Why did Cain kill Abel? Because Cain wanted one of Abel's
Sister
wives. Yes. And of course we know all about, we learned all last week, there was way more to the story. It was about the offerings. But what were the offerings? It was the inner light and everything they were going on, right? So, the tikkun has to come out, right? And it says that Moses looked this way and that and spoke the name and killed the Egyptian. Remember that? Remember, if you remember, I said Moses, he wasn't looking to see if anybody was around. He looked into the soul of the Egyptian from one end to the other.
And saw who he was.
And saw who he was, and saw no good would come out of him. Come out of him. He was what? Waste. He was waste. Now.
So are all bad people waste?
No, we'll just keep it on the context of the story. Because we live in the tohu, we're embedded in, we live in the
Porta potty?
in the poopy water. That's a cliche at our yard. You know, I have the aerobic system, and when it comes on, it shoots the water on the yard, and we keep the dog and the kids and everybody and toys out of the poopy water.
It's
You know?
supposed to be clean.
Yeah, but you know,
I throw it away if it touches it.
it's supposed to be clean.
Poopy water.
Yeah, you know. But anyway, we live in the waste material. We live in the tohu. That's what it is. So, back to our story. This child is conceived. Now, we have a problem here because he is a What? What is he?
Egyptian.
Half Egyptian,
No.
half Israelite.
Half Israelite. But if your mother's a Jew, you're a
Two.
Jew. Issue. Where are you in the tribe?
It's your father's.
It's your
You have
father.
no inheritance.
It's your father.
It all
Tribe.
depends on Ashkenazi versus Sephardic.
In the desert, at this point in time, it was your father. If you weren't Jewish by father, you had to go outside the camp. Who is outside the camp? The Ervrah. The waist. Right? So, the son of an Israelite woman went out. There's 3 different portions, explanations to this went out segment. Number 1, he went out from the previous portion in the Parsha. And I just read to you the previous portion in the Parsha was the showbread, which conceals a reek, which conceals a teak, and the whole thing. Right? So he went out from that. So because the showbread is lechem panim, which means the bread of the face. It's really not called showbread. Lechem panim. This is the bread of the face. And these are the faces of the Father. Now, remember, this guy has father issues. Not only does he have father issues, he's a Gilgal of the Nephesh of Cain, obviously. And Moses killed his daddy.
And doesn't it also make him a manser?
And we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
And he's a manser. And we'll explain that when we get there. So, what is about the showbread? Friday, the showbread is baked. And it's sifted through 13 sifts. Why 13? Because of the beard, blah, blah, blah. It's baked with this fine flour. And the old bread from last week is eaten. Okay? The thing of it is the bread remained hot and fresh all week. And they ate it. The priest ate it. Little Johnny over here gets mad. Is that any way to treat the Father of heaven? Feeding him eating him old bread. You know? But what he doesn't understand is in that realm, in that dimension, because it's in the holies, that doesn't exist. Decay doesn't exist. Because that dimension is a dimension of Yetzirah and Berea and Atzilut. Alright? So if you're outside in Asiya, you don't understand what's going on in Yetzirah. Alright? So he is coming against that. Alright? And he says, is this the way you honor a father? How about fresh bread? So he mocked, and he says, a king eats fresh bread every day, not 9-day-old bread. So he's mocking the situation. Because of his father, who was an Egyptian taskmaster, he's pure Goyish cup. Okay? Pure Gentile thinking. He doesn't understand the spirituality behind what's going on. Number 2, he had went out from the court of Moses. He blasphemed God. He mocked the showbread, which was he mocked the higher level. And we're going to get into the whole blaspheme thing. He had put his tent in Dan, but they threw him out. So he went out. Now, here's one of the situations. Let me go to number 3. He went out from this world. He lost his he went out from this world. He lost his portion in the world to come. Why? He is waste material.
The boy.
Yes. He is waste material. This term went out is soha. which means excrement. It also means to go out. You can use it as, I'm going outside, soha, or, you know, I'm going to take a soha, you know.
But you know, the problem that I have
Is
with
that
that,
the mill of Sota?
There's the same roots there, which we're going to get into that. We got to make a loop.
Okay.
We got to make a loop to Sota. All right? Now, this is the waste of the nephesh of Cain. So, he is then brought to the judge to judge him, who is none other than the person that killed his father. So he's got some issues going on here. All right? So, why did he use the name? Why? Why did Moses use the name in his scenario? Because he was rectifying Cain. But when this kid used the name, he brought a blemish to it. The Torah says he bore a hole in it. He bore a hole in this world. And that's like, so not only is he letting, he's boring a hole because of excrement to go out, he's letting it in. He's boring a hole between Asiya and Yetzirah. This world and that world. And we're going to see what happens when he did that. Now, Jethro, he got it when he said, now I know Hashem is the God of all gods. When he said the word now, that was the whole tikkun for the nephesh of Cain. But we still have to deal with Cain's, for the neshama of Cain. We still have to deal with the nephesh of Cain. Alright? Now, the word in 17 there, and a man, Vav Shin Yud. When you turn it around, when you invert it, it is Yud Shin Vav. Who is Yud Shin Vav?
Might be Yeshu.
Yeshu. This is Jesus. You want to know where Jesus is in the Old Testament? Verse 17. And a man. He was the one that mocked the Agadata. He was the one that mocked the sages. You've heard it say, da, 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 but I say, blah, 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 blah. Now, the Talmud says, Yeshu mocked the oral Torah. The Kabbalah. What is that? The showbread. The Kabbalah is the showbread. Now, who was Jesus's father?
he's a Roman guard.
He was a Roman guard. He was a Monzer. Monzers are incredibly intelligent.
Are you talking about Joseph?
No, I'm talking about Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus, you know,
His father, though.
his
They're not
father.
calling- I'm not-
Terrorists or something like that.
His father was Roman. His mother, Mary. And so that the Romans covered it up by making this immaculate conception. He is the iteration of the Gilgal, of the son of the Israelite woman. It's the same story. He is the nephesh of the soul of Cain. He is the excrement. And we're going to see why. Now,
And so the story with Joseph, he stayed with her to cover her up.
yes.
So she really was with the Roman
Well,
guard.
Yeah.
you know, I have to
And-
realize Joseph was a widow with many children, and he needed a young wife to take care of the kids.
Yeah. So now we have set up.
Christians don't know that part.
No. And they're according to the Zohar, they are not supposed to know that part. So, Russell, after Jesus' death, where is he held?
He is held in the vat of
Easy.
Storah.
Of boiling excrement in Gehenna.
Yes.
Why? Because that's what he is.
Well, it's interesting that you make this point. I mean, we've heard that excrement is a symbol of idolatry. So you would think it was he's being held in there by the idolatry that's associated with him in Christianity, but what the story you're telling is a little bit different.
Well,
I mean, it's a different aspect to it.
right. It's both because what you're saying is Christendom holding him in there, holding him captive? Yes. As long as they continue the idolatry, because his daddy was Roman. Who is the God of Rome?
Samael.
Jesus.
What makes sense?
And who? All right, iterate that up. Jesus. Who's the next part? Who do you say? You said it.
Esau?
No.
Mary?
No. If Adam's over here, who's over here?
Samael.
Thank you.
No, Samuel.
All right. And what is that? That's the nakash. What is that? It's the waist. It's the other side. Because he was a Monser.
What does that word mean?
It means bastard child. It means
And you're stuck with that terminology for 13 generations. If you have a child out of wedlock, even though he could be adopted or she could be adopted, for 13 generations he's considered a man.
so. As the kid was thrown out and stoned and killed, he had to be thrown out. He went out to the Erah. What did Jesus do? Go out unto all the nations.
Yeah.
Go out to the Erah. He was cast out. That's why he wasn't allowed anywhere. He was mad. He cleared the temple. They, of course, they pitted him against the Sanhedrin and all these different things because he's mocking the system. The same thing, the same iteration. Blaspheme, articulated the name and cursed. It means to make a hole in the name. Now, this child did it to protect his mother. So did Yeshua. Did it to protect his mother.
How's that? Are you gonna say?
Because I mean, if you live in Israel and you had sex with a non-Israeli, you are with in fact a whore, and that's what it says in the Zohar, which I will read. You're called a whore because this woman's name, Deborah, means hello. And Shilamite, where you get the word for shalom, all right? So her name literally means hello, shalom, hello, shalom. All right? So she was overly friendly, which is what got her into this deal. Flirtatious. And that's what got this son, mother, this whole episode in trouble in the first place in Egypt. All right, so we shall continue because there's more.
Would you repeat a sentence, please?
Yes.
Jesus is the Gilgal of the son of, like,
The Israelite woman, the
Israelite woman.
Shulamite.
Okay.
He's the Gilgal of the showbread?
No, he blasphemed the
The
showbread.
Gilgal of Cain's nephew.
Shilamite, the woman, the Israelite woman in Egypt.
His mother? Are you talking about Mary?
No, I'm talking about Jesus. He's the Gilgal of the Nephesh of Cain from the Egyptian man.
Gotcha, okay.
Because you understand, Rome, what is the exile? The exile is Egypt. What was the exile then? Rome. Exile is exile. It's the same thing. It's the same. It's the same. All right. And so.
You can't imagine what a little hiccup can do to you trying to learn this when you hiccup on Skype.
Yeah. So, what is the problem? The problem we have here is Christians blaspheme the name of Israel.
How do they do that? What do you mean?
Because Israel is not a country. Israel is not Jacob. Israel is not Zeron-Pin. I'm climbing up the ladder. Israel is not Adam. Israel is God. So, when you blaspheme Israel, in other words, you remove yourself from Israel, no, we have our own God, we have our own salvation thing, we don't need the Torah. When you blaspheme that, this is what Gehenna is. Gehenna, there is no such thing as Gehenna there, except if you make it here. Do you understand? You build whatever your thing is there. If you're a poop head here, you're a poop head there. Does that make sense? Gehenna, you're building your own home. You're building your own judgment. It's only based off you here. So if you're Torah here, there's no Gehenna there. It can't exist there. There can only exist what you put there. What you stimulate from below can only be there. There is no common hell. Oh, he's a big pot and he throws everybody in. No, it's your own personal Gehenna. Whatever your Gehenna is, when you die, you built the whole thing. Does that make sense? So, the nephew of Titus was trying to decide if he was going to convert. Right? So he summoned 3 people from the dead. The first one was his uncle. And he said, "Uncle, should I convert?" And he said, "No." And he says, "Well, what is your punishment in Gehenna?" He says, "Every day I am burned to ashes and scattered at the 4 corners of the earth." And then picked up again and done it again every day. Then he summons Balaam. And Balaam says no. And he says, "Balaam, what's your punishment?" He said, "I am boiling in semen every day." Which is a whole other story connected to that. We ain't getting into that. And then he conjures up Yeshu. And he says, "Should I convert?" And he says, "Yes."
Jesus says yes.
Yes. Because he says, anyone who harms Israel destroys the apple of his eye, which is the little Chokmah. Alright? Measure for measure. He says, you're either the crown, or what's opposite is the crown? The butt. The excrement. You're either the head or the tail. So, what Jesus is saying is, hey, I'm sitting here, the tail, and boiling excrement, and so yes, you should do that. All right? That doesn't mean we should do that. He was just talking about conversion here. You have to invert it. It's either going to be this or that, one or the other. You're on the inside or you're on the out. All right? The Arizal, the Ari, he has a book called the Book of Gilgulim, the Book of Transmigrations of Souls. Now, it's very encrypted, and there is a portion that is titled Roha HaMitzrayim. Roha HaMitzrayim, which is translated evil of the Egyptians. Mitzrayim is Egypt. Roha, Ra, evil. That wasn't its original title. Its original title was Yehu HaNotri, which is the same as HaMitzrayim, HaNotri. The M and the Nun. The difference between of Nazareth or of Egypt. One's the Nun, one's the Mem. And the two letters are right back to back together. The completion of the spiritual contamination. This is from the Ari. The completion of the spiritual contamination of the Nephesh of Cain, the final excrement. Therefore, was Yeshu. Therefore, he was judged in boiling excrement. He is the Nephesh of the blasphemer that was stoned. Therefore, it is written regarding him, regarding Yeshu, he is the son of an Israelite daughter, just like his first incarnation was, the son of an Israelite woman. This is the Notri, Nazareth, the Yesod. It is cut off because it's not married. So what is the Catholicism teaching? They teach their priests are not married. They're cut off. The Yesod is cut off. They teach celibacy. This is the teaching that comes out of that. The word Notri, Yetzirah, same root. Jesus is the backside of the Vav, of the Yesod, of none other than Metatron. Ta-na-na, ta-na-na. That fell into the Klippa. He is known as Jesus of Yetzirah, Yeshu HaNotri. Because he's claiming to be the big Metatron.
Mm-hmm.
The little one don't claim to be the big one. This is what you call cutting off your head to spite your face. You understand? Mm-hmm. Normally saying they cut off their face to spite their... No, this is cutting off your head to spite your face. The head of Yesod. And so here is you only build there what you build here. If you build Torah here, you build Torah there. If you get in the waste material here, you got waste material there. Faith, listen to this statement. Faith doesn't build anything. We live in the world of action. Faith doesn't build anything. Only Torah builds something. Faith builds nothing. Believe in whatever you want. You can believe in God, believe in this, believe in that. Without doing mitzvah, without doing Torah, without doing Shabbat, without doing the Omer, without doing Pesach, you're not doing nothing. You're just going through. You see? Because what you build here is what you got there. Because it says the righteous, the tzaddiks, are reclining with their crowns on their heads. Why? Because they protected Yesod here. They did the right things here. They built there. Mm-hmm. So Gehinnom is a very individual thing. Because we are made in the image of God, as I said, He has waste material, we have waste material. Here's what happened. Yeshu, Jesus, He missed the mark. Mm-hmm. He had tikkun to do for the soul of Cain, but missed the mark, just like it did once before. But so the whole thing fell again.
So if he was supposed to do,
He was supposed to do tikkun for the soul of Cain, and he didn't.
how could he not do that? I mean, why did he not?
Because he was contaminated. He was contaminated. But what did he succeed in doing?
Spreading monotheism all over the world.
Yeah, but let's think about cleaning up Israel. Cleaning it up.
Took the Arab
He took the Erev Ra.
He took the Erev Ra out, which is what God wanted to happen in the first place.
So Jesus did fulfill some purpose.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In every one of them, wherever they fail, there's success and failure. You know, if I'm throwing a fastball and I throw a ball, that's not failure, because it might have been the hardest pitch I've ever thrown, the most correct pitch I've ever thrown. I just threw it and it wasn't called a strike. But mechanically, I might have had it all right. But it's still a ball. Take your base. Still costs us a game. So in all failure, there's success. But what this is teaching us is, and Jesus went out and go out into all the nations and do all that. God is using that to take the waste, the excrement out of the land of Israel.
Is that because they're not in Israel, in the land anymore? You know, that's when they were exiled out of the land, and then they separated out. Moses brought them all together and brought them in when they were going into the land. So then there's definitely a connection with Israel and the Erev Ra while they're in the land.
And Jeroboam is of the same line. He split the tribes. If you follow it, it'll just go right on up. All right. So the whole story is nothing more than what we've seen, a fractal formula iteration once again. You know, instead of the 12 loaves, he had the 12 people. You know, he didn't come to bring peace. Messiah comes to bring peace. He came to bring a sword. You know, destruction, Guverot, that side. You know, rebellion. You know, and ultimately he was killed for it, and his crown was thorns. What is a thorn in Torah? I told y'all this a couple weeks ago. It's an inverted crown. He was Malchut of Malchut, of the Nefesh, of the soul, that came. Low as you can go. Bottom of the barrel. Now,
Except he was king at the bottom of the barrel.
oh yeah, he was top of the bottom. And he's top of the bottom. But he's the bottom, literally the bottom. I mean, here's the thing. In the body of Adam, somebody has to be the waste valve. That's a nice way of putting it. You know? So be careful not to call your call the names of your kids something. You know? It may just
Fight you back.
yeah. Now, here is what the Zohar says regarding all this. This is all in there. Rabbi Abba said, "Had not the holy luminary Rabbi Shimon been living in the world, I would not have permission to reveal this. For permission was given to reveal this matter only to the friends among the reapers of the field. Reapers of the field are ones who are initiated. That is, those who already entered concealed wisdom and came out in peace. May those who wish to reveal this to those who do not know breathe their last." Now, what it says, what it's talking about, what is breath? Ruach. This is to be concealed. If not, it damages your Ruach.
Christians wouldn't believe it anyway.
Yeah. But, so, for the sake of this class, this information is very sensitive information because you're dealing with profaning the name, blaspheming, and boring a hole in the layer of Asiya to Yetzirah, and you don't want to get caught up in it. You know? And so it's kind of like, you know, it's a bomb, don't touch it. It may blow. All right? So that is, that's that story. Pretty neat, huh? Now, since we are in, and of course, it goes on to say what he did. He took the hay of the name, Yud Hey Vav Hey, he took the hay off to protect his mother. So, was this guy a fool?
He knew what he's doing.
Did he know what he was doing? He took the hay of the name of Yud Hey Vav Hey, he removed the hay?
Yeah, because that's a lifeline right there.
Are we talking about fools here? No. Is it any, if this guy can remove the hay off Yud Hey Vav Hey and use it as a weapon, and because he was fighting, see what happened was this. The Israelite father that was married to his mother remarried. She had a son. Those two sons were fighting in the camp. Why were they fighting? The Israelite son called his mother a whore. It was on. So what did Moses do? Moses used the name. What did he do? He took from the name. See what's going on there? Hasidim Gurot. It's Hug. It's the whole. That's all it is. Same thing. Same thing that's going on with the whole Yeshu deal.
So they were half brothers.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, that same mom.
No,
different
no,
No.
they didn't. They didn't have. The
His
good son was
mother's-
born from a new mom.
His
Same
mother's-
dude.
That's what it didn't matter if it's the same mom.
No. Look.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
An Egyptian man,
Yeah.
His husband married another
Egyptian woman.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I got it
Israelite man, Israelite woman.
now. I got it now.
Egyptian. These two were married.
Yeah.
The Egyptian man comes in and has sex with her,
Right.
and they have a kid.
Right.
the Israelite man divorces her and marries an Israeli woman, and they have a kid.
So these two kids are fighting.
And these two kids are fighting.
Ah, okay.
That's what's going on in the Parsha. And they're fighting because the blue dot, called the pink dot's mother a whore. And so it was on.
Sticks and stones.
Right? Don't talk about my mama.
Exactly.
You talking about they had
Your mama.
your mama jokes back then. Don't ask for my mama. You call my mama a whore. Well, I'm gonna use the name of God on you. Moses used it on my daddy, so I'm gonna take from it.
So I don't. That's the part I don't understand. How do you take from it?
You are a master. He's a Torah master. I said among there's smart, brilliant men. Brilliant men. He was a master Kabbalist, I'm sure. He knew we're not. We have, remember.
So they aren't little 12-year-old boys.
No. They knew what they were doing.
They've graduated.
It doesn't
from
say boy.
college
It just says the son of.
with their master's degrees.
It just says son of. Well, heck, it was 40 years they'd been into that. It was 40 years till Moses went back and got them out. So they're not children.
I thought it might have been at the 10-year point.
Yeah, no. Because remember, Moses killed him, was gone for 40 years, and came back when he was 80, and then took him out. So no. These guys know what they're doing. They all know what they're doing. And so if this guy, so it's like, okay, did Jesus do all those miracles? Well, I'm sure he did. He was a Torah master. Right? If this kid can jerk the hay off the name of Yud Hey Vav Hey, if he could damage Atzilut, the Nukva,
But the backside.
yeah, but still, the backside's connected to the front side. The foot's connected to the knee. The knee's connected to the hip. You know, the back of your leg is connected to the front of your leg, because there's nothing here but one thing. All right, and so this is the, and so what is hanging what is hanging down into the klipa? Yesod. This is Netzach Hod feeding into Yesod. It's dangling down into the klipa. The back side of that, Vav, Yeshu HaNotzri. And he's taken the whole world with him into the cesspool of the Tohu of Gehenna. So, lucky for us, we know where they went. Now, I want to cover a little bit on the Omer and what is going on here, because we're in the Omer, right? The secret behind the mystery is that there are two sisters, right? Of course.
We're doing the same story?
No. I'm on the Omer now.
Okay.
The secret behind the story is two sisters. Okay? Can anybody tell me who the two sisters are in prototype?
Rachel and Leah?
Well, that's not prototype. They're the ones that they're tuning for.
Oh,
Sarah and Rebecca.
even Lilith.
Thank you. Eve and Lilith. It's all about the story of two sisters.
Even Lilith.
It's all about the story of two sisters. Right? There's always two sisters, always two brothers. The whole theme goes through. And the tikkun for them is the two sisters of Rachel and Leah. So let's go on. One of the sisters is the woman of valor.
Rachel.
One of the sisters is the wife of harlotry, Lilith.
Oh.
And I'm getting back to your sota. Back to your sota. When the one smells the mouth of the other, the water of sota, of her examination, that is her womb, her belly of the wife of harlotry swells, and her thigh falls away. Of course, we know, we've gone through what happens. Even though the wife of harlotry did not undergo the test, but only came near the woman of valor, who checked herself, which is the secret of the barley offering. And all the curses fell upon her as if she had drank it herself. For the checking of the woman of valor is poison and death to the wife of harlotry. This is the counsel of the Holy One. Blessed be he gave to his children to offer the sacrifice of the barley offer to the woman of valor, namely the test, such as the sota, so that the wife of harlotry would flee her, and Israel would remain unmixed. Happy are they in the world to come. And you count for yourselves from the morrow after Shabbat, from the first day you brought the omer of the wave offering. Come and see. When Israel were in Egypt, they were under another power. Let's call it Lilith. The power of the harlotry, the unclean woman. And were attached to impurity as a woman sitting in the days of her uncleanliness. Now, of course, they circumcised. That was the whole putting the blood and the letter Hey. That's the whole circumcision. So they're cleaning themselves. They're circumcising themselves. Once they were attached to her, the impurity stopped from among them, as a woman whose blood of uncleanness has stopped from her. After the blood of uncleanness has stopped in her, it is written, then she shall number herself 7 days. 7 days. 7 days and 7 days, 7 days, 7 days, 7 days, 7 days, 7 days, 7 days. That is how many days? 49. Then you shall number herself 7 days. Which are the 7 Sphirot? There are 49 Sphirot after the secret of the 49 gates of Bina. For this reason, 7 Shabbatot need to be counted in order to merit, listen to it, Zeron Pin on the holy of the Shabbatot to receive the Torah and receive the Torah. Like a wife on the night of her cleansing gets to mate with her husband. Now, this is the reason that dew, namely plenty, falls from that point, Hokmah, on these 49 days of Bina, called the camp. Now, just real quick, to help y'all out. Who are the two? We said the woman was Rachel and Leah. The women are also who? Bina and Malchut. Bina and Malchut. The 2 Hays. Right? Now, get this. Hamotzi. Hey. Hamotzi. The bread. Lekim min. Haaretz. The earth. The hay. Hamotzi. Lekim min. Haaretz. The hay. Those are the 2 Hays of the bread. Showbread once again. You follow me? You eat the showbread. You know the showbread. It's union. The 2 Hays. What started it all up here? Sog and Ben, the 2 Hays. It's the same iteration all the way through the whole thing. But the problem is it's all fall and then excrement. And there's death and destruction. You got to clean it up. That's what counting the Omer is. This is what it says. And of course, the dew, the light, which dew is always the dew that hits the hay is from the vav, and that's the semen. Then in the whole thing, this is the dew. This is the oil on the hair of the beard. All right. This is and Bina is called the camp. And Bina joined them through the holy king Zeron Pin. When did the dew fall? when Israel approached Mount Sinai on Shavuot. The dew then fell completely and purified Israel, as if the filth was stopped from them, the filth, namely the serpents that injected Hava at the center of the tree. You see what's going on? They joined the king and the congregation of Israel and received the Torah because they were clean. They had gotten rid of Lilith. They have gotten rid of Nakash. The Nakash opposite Samael, the Lilith opposite Israel at that time, because Israel was Malchut. Those are the two. They're the two Hays, because the two Hays are combined with Leah and Rachel. We already explained this at the time. All the rivers run to the sea. Zeranpin, the central column, as the holy Shavuot and the aspect of him. This is Torah. Come and see. Listen to this. This is why I wanted to read this. Whoever did not count this reckoning, these 7 complete Shavuot, to earn their purity, is not considered pure, and is not among the pure, nor is he worthy of having a portion in the Torah. And whoever arrives pure on that day, Shavuot, and did not lose count upon reaching the night of Shavuot, he needs to occupy himself with Torah and unite with it and keep the supernal purity that comes to him on that night, and then he's pure. So, learning for next year. Don't lose count of the Torah, the Omer. Okay, so that's why I want to go at. Now, one last thing here. And this is something that I threw at Bax today, and he was, or yesterday rather, and he was like, I don't know. But y'all can chew on it, see what y'all think. So what I just did, we just went through the hays, right? And we just understood the dew and the hay and all the union. Now what did this Egyptian punk do? Took a hay. Now, let's see. This is what the Torah says. Resurrection will occur by means of the holy spiritual droplet that manifests from the name of God, whose numerical value is the word for dew. 39. This is the name formed by spelling Havaya, Yud Hey Vav Hey, if you spell it out, without the Hey. So the Yud would be Yud Vav Daled Yud. The Hey would be H-A, Hey Aleph. And the Vav would be Vav Aleph Vav. The numerical value of that is 39. Alright?
It's a long form.
Yeah, it's a long form of Yud Hey Vav.
Yes.
Alright? So, according to the sages, God will resurrect the dead in the future from the dew. Of course, we know that lives in the loose bone. I don't know if I've taught y'all that, and it's fed by the last meal on the Sabbath. Whence do we know that the dead will come to life by means of the dew? It is written, your dead will come to life, my corpses will arise and awake for shout, O you who rest in the dirt. For your dew is the dew that brings vegetation to life. When the Jewish people expired in ecstasy from hearing the first commandment at Mount Sinai, in other words, when God spoke, they all died. Mm-hmm. And then he'd bring them back to life, and he'd speak again, and they'd die. And he'd speak, and they'd die. And he just kept, and finally they said, quit talking, Moses, you go up there and deal with it. We can't take it anymore. And so Moses did. All right? God revived them using the dew, in which he will in the future to resurrect the dead. It is here he explains that this dew is in the physical manifestation of the name of God, the numerical value that is spelled out for the word dew. Here we see the name is actually the name Havayah without the final hay. Now, it goes on to discuss this thing. And what I was trying to put together, this is my own opinion. What is the biggest thing associated with Jesus? The biggest thing,
Salvation.
which is what?
Being the Messiah.
Eternal life.
How do you get that?
Accept him into your heart.
The blood of Jesus.
Oh,
And in 3 days he did what?
he rose from the dead.
What's that called?
Resurrection.
And what is everybody expecting to get out of believing in him?
Resurrection.
Resurrection. What happens when you take the hay?
You go boil and poop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say that again.
No resurrection.
You boil and poop.
No resurrection. That's where the dew has to be able to get to Yesod, from Yesod to Malchut. You know?
And the dew's in the final hay.
My thought is that what this kid was doing, this is my own opinion, is what this kid was doing was trying to take salvation and resurrection away from the Jews. Because he took the hay. Which, it plainly says, is where the resurrection comes from. What did Jesus do? If you believe in him, you get resurrection. What did he do? He just took your resurrection away. And that's the end of Torah's story for today. So,
It's interesting. It goes with something I read this week. It was talking about how some people won't be resurrected. It didn't go into this detail. It was just talking about how there's going to be this, there's an element that won't be resurrected. And it could be, and if I go back and look at that, it may tie in a little tighter.
well, there's also stages of it. There's also stages of it. And that's why there's 2 stages of Ger Gerurim. One stage is a part of Israel. The other stage comes up and says, oh yeah, what about us? You know? So, anyway, that's the Torah for the week. And I found the whole thing very interesting. I did want to go over that deal on the Omer because, and if y'all will remind me, in the book, in this Parsha Emor, not everything of course, but most of the stuff that deals with Pesach, a big portion of Pesach, because it's all in there. Pesach's in there, Shavuot's in there, Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, Yom Kippur, and so you're supposed to be happy and joyous and celebrate on Pesach and Shavuot, and you're not supposed to be happy and celebrate on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, because that's judgment, that's harsh guvarot, and all these different things. So, to me, in the Zohar, although it's very deep, there's a lot of very applicable things that we need to pull out of there, that can affect our life, and I think and help us in achieving our purity, holiness. Let's take holiness and set it up here. But we're all aspiring to elevate as high as we can elevate, and build our Olam Haba lined with iced tea and an air conditioner. So anyway, the Torah is amazing. The sages are amazing. And we will keep this one for the sake of heaven for sure underneath our hats. Eretov.
There you go.